This did not seem like real life. You have someone who's gone missing.
Everybody in the newsroom just kind of froze, and everybody just audibly gasped.
Everything that hides in our psyche of who stranger danger looks like.
Why in the world would you take her mother?
And at the base of it, we saw blood, spattered blood.
And all I can think about is that the last thing that Nancy ever saw? Was this masked stranger coming into her home?
Nancy Guthrie is the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie. Savannah famously loves the Tucson area, grew up there, and her mom was still living there.
She was out with family on a Saturday night.
We know that she had gone to dinner at her daughter Annie's house, which is about 10 minutes away. We're told that she left in an Uber and then a family member drove her back to her house. According to technology that linked back to Nancy's house, that her garage door opened and then it closed just 2 or 3 minutes later.
She went into her home, and they know that she was there because family dropped her off.
Around 1:30 in the morning, someone is tampering with Nancy's doorbell camera. Then it was about 30 minutes after that her pacemaker became disconnected with her cell phone, which was found inside the house. So her pacemaker had like some Bluetooth capabilities that connected it.
And then sometime in the middle of the night, they believe that person, who we've all seen now, got into her home somehow and then abducted her, took her out.
Then the very next day, no one heard from her. And that was very unusual because she was plugged into the community. And so it kind of raised some red flags, and it just became very clear that something was very wrong, that Nancy would not disappear out of nowhere.
Well, we found out, I want to say 24 hours after she actually disappeared. We had some local media outlets in Tucson that were with Sheriff Chris Danos the morning after. But it took a little bit for national news to find out and for us up here in Phoenix to find out. And so we were just getting rumors or rumblings, if you will, that there was an elderly woman that had disappeared, and then it started to slowly come out that that woman was Nancy Guthrie.
And that breaking news out of Pima County in Tucson, where sheriff's deputies are looking for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. It was breaking news. We broke it there at the desk. We had an 84-year-old woman who wasn't hurting anybody in her own home. She is the mother of one of the most well-known people in media, and she's just gone. Deputies say she does not have any mental or cognitive challenges, so anyone with information on where she might be is asked to call 911 or the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
Being reported by family, she's has no cognitive issues at all. She's very alert, very of good sound mind.
We want to make sure we get this story right, especially in those early days.
We are following some breaking news out of Tucson from the Pima County Sheriff. That's 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie that you see, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. She's missing. Thanks for joining us this morning right here on 12 News Today in AZ. It is Monday. I'm Emma Jade.
I'm Allison Rodriguez. Now, Guthrie was last seen in the Catalina Foothills area Saturday night, just before 10 p.m. Search and rescue crews, air units, K-9 teams, they are all actively looking in this area, trying to find her.
Sunday night, I got the call that I needed to go to Tucson to do our morning show. And so I got to Nancy's house very early on Monday morning to get set up to do our live shots.
We have our Justin Pizzera live in Tucson this morning with the latest on this investigation and the desperate search that's happening right now. Justin, what do we know?
Yeah, hey, good morning. So the sheriff's office isn't saying at this point what exactly was inside that home.
There was no crime scene tape. There was no deputy parked outside the house. There was no media other than me. There was a station from Tucson way down the street. They weren't even in front of her house.
The sheriff was asked multiple times last night what it was that they found inside Nancy's home. He said now is the time not to talk about that. They are really focusing on finding her. But whatever is inside that home, it is serious enough and concerning enough that they did call in these homicide detectives.
But there we are Monday morning, directly in front of her house.
And there's not even police tape. There's not even an officer out there. I will never forget that.
Did she leave things behind? Did something more serious happen here? Did she go to the hospital? Did she have some kind of medical emergency?
So the team has called every hospital in the area, also trying to find Nancy. That has come up empty-handed as well.
So I relieved Justin Pizzera, who was down there the first morning.
A lot of urgency here. The sheriff did tell us that he is asking for the community's help. He's asking for people right in this area in northeast Tucson and the Catalina foothills area to check their Ring cameras.
There wasn't much to go off because the missing persons case had just started, but that's what it was considered. It was considered a true missing persons case.
Right now on 12 News at 1, search and rescue teams are looking for the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie.
When we got down there, first we went to Nancy's house, and it was in the Catalina foothills in Tucson, and just a remote, tucked away area.
We are starting right now with breaking news and a major update that we've been following for you. The mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie is still missing, and just a short time ago we learned that her home is now being treated as a crime scene. Let's go live now to Pima County, where 12 News journalist Sean Rice is tracking the latest developments. And Sean, what are authorities saying this afternoon?
Tram, good afternoon to you. Very odd case here in northeast Tucson. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos told us in a press conference this morning that they have evidence that a crime has been committed right here, right in front of me. This is the home of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie.
What's at the scene, at the home, is of concern to us, so much so we've decided we're going to call out our homicide team. And so they're here, they'll process the home, do what they can there, and again, as we speak now, our plane was up just a minute ago. Those things are happening.
We weren't really sure if foul play was involved at that point. The sheriff's office wasn't being clear if foul play was involved. So we didn't have enough to go off of. It slowly started to come out, I think, at the tail end of that day that there was a struggle inside. And as the sheriff's office put it in a press conference, they believed that a crime was committed inside.
Now today the sheriff could not tell us or elaborate more on what was found inside the home, if there was any signs of forced entry. We still have a lot of questions for him. We do know that Nancy has remained missing for now over 24 hours.
It's horrific to think about. I mean, to see the coverage play out, it is so surreal because you can't believe this is actually happening to someone you feel like you know.
And at the base of it, we saw blood.
It was very sobering for all of us.
It was the first time we were hearing from her kids about possibly what had happened to their mother.
But all the homes in the neighborhood, they were all set back off the street. It's not a traditional suburban type neighborhood where there's a sidewalk and there's a front door you can clearly see and there's a front window. Generally, all the homes were pushed back on their lots.
If you've ever been into the Tucson foothills, you know that sort of topography. Craggy hills, really nice homes, but super spread out from each other. This isn't a normal cul-de-sac that we would see in Mesa or in Phoenix.
And it's an older neighborhood, so the landscape they had in front, which is almost all desert landscape, creosote and saguaros and palo verdes, they were all fully grown. So most of the homes were hidden back there.
It's very dark. It is far away from Tucson proper, away from the city lights. You know, this is a part of Tucson that, from what we understand, people really value the dark sky movement. They don't want any light pollution. And so it just was the perfect storm for someone to kidnap someone. This was isolated, and you could begin to understand what a daunting task this would be for the investigators.
When I was there, I was always hesitant to go on her property. But what ended up happening was there was an outlet that went up to the doorway of her front entryway of her home. And at the base of it, as you walk a couple of feet out from the entryway, we saw blood. Spattered blood, as if somebody had a bloody nose as they were walking out of their home.
I remember seeing the video. It wasn't reported yet that there was blood on the front door. we saw the video and we asked questions.
I'm not saying there's blood inside that house or outside that house. What I'm saying is our team processed a scene like you would think of any crime scene. We go in and we process it. We look for things like that, blood, DNA, any kind of physical evidence, fingerprints, anything. And all of that is gathered and submitted to a lab. That lab will report back to us what they find. So far, what we found from that lab is nothing that would tell us this is who did this.
When we heard that blood had been discovered on the porch of Nancy Guthrie's house, I don't think that any of us were surprised. We were saddened. It was very sobering for all of us who, by that point, had been on this case pretty much 24/7 since she disappeared.
On Monday night, Sheriff Nanos confirmed investigators found DNA at the scene, but they're not sure whose it was, though they sent samples to a lab in Phoenix for testing.
We've gotten hundreds, if not now thousands of leads to look at. Timing is very critical to us. The longer this goes on, the more danger she faces.
The sheriff later confirmed that they had tested that blood and it did come back to Nancy. There were some other DNA samples on the inside that they were trying to test as well, and comparing it then to those blood droplets in hopes that it would lead them to who else could have been in that house that day.
This is a crime scene. It was not sealed off to the media, which is what is supposed to happen. And here you had journalists, and we'll do this, we'll go, if we're not violating any laws, we'll go. Journalists walking up to the front door, to Nancy Guthrie's front door, after a crime has been committed there, and taking pictures of the blood spatter. We're trying to tell the story. Going up to the front door, seeing what you can see is part of the story. They never put police tape around that house. And I don't know how, was it day 2, day 3, day 4? I don't know how long it took, but that was shocking.
And I remember that first video that Savannah posted on social media, and she talked directly to that person.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too.
The videos were heartbreaking. That was the first time that I think many of us realized just how desperate the situation was, right? Because you saw the desperation in Savannah's face.
Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She is funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses.
That was very, heartbreaking, because it was the first time we were hearing from her kids about possibly what had happened to their mother, and demanding answers and just wanting to know that she was safe and okay. And
the light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances.
Mainly the videos were coming from Savannah's Instagram, Twitter accounts, things of that nature. They were very emotional, as I think any of us would be if our loved one, especially an elderly loved one, is potentially forcefully taken from their home in the middle of the night. That is not something that I think any of us can imagine having to work through and understand how something like that could happen.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile.
A few days after her disappearance, some of the media outlets reported receiving a note through their email that appeared to be credible, and so they passed that along to both the Sheriff's Department and the FBI.
We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media.
When the ransom note first came out, we questioned and we questioned again. We wanted to make sure that we had this right, especially in those early days.
And TMZ came out with theirs, I think, pretty quickly. At that point, though, it was still odd, because it wasn't like this ransom note had gone out widely. It was only a couple of different, outlets that got this. And it really wasn't being discussed except outside of the fact that it existed. But I think where I did anyway, as a reporter, thought that there was validity to it is when Savannah and her brother sat down and basically said on camera, "We've gotten your note, let's talk."
As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen.
This person looked like everything that hides in our psyche of who stranger danger looks like, what the boogeyman looks like.
We had heard from NBC, I think they were the first to break that those images had been recovered from the doorbell camera.
I remember it so vividly, where everybody in the newsroom just kind of froze. They were looking at the TV, you see the special report, and everybody just audibly gasped.
This person looked like everything that hides in our psyche of who stranger danger looks like, what the boogeyman looks like.
We had heard from NBC, I think they were the first to break that those images had been recovered from the doorbell camera.
Seeing that man walk up there and looking at the preparation that they went into to make sure they weren't discovered, and they haven't been yet, it's still just so chilling.
When I saw that video of the alleged abductor on the doorbell camera, I thought, this is it. They kind of got a pretty close-up look at maybe, the eyes. Authorities are going to know who this person is. There's going to be a friend or a family member or a coworker that recognizes.
And that breaking news is the biggest break yet in the case of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance and kidnapping. The FBI just released new video and images from Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera from the early morning of her disappearance. And you can see the video shows a person wearing a mask and a backpack and gloves at the 84-year-old's front door. The man is armed and carrying a backpack and appears to have tampered with and even taken that camera.
We talked about, as soon as NBC News was done with their report, we went on the air and we just dissected, what just happened with the FBI releasing this video and seeing this for the first time, looking at the way he's walking up to the porch, using the brush or the flowers to cover the camera, looking at the backpack, trying to make sense of all of this.
Having this man come up, and all I can think about is that the last thing that Nancy ever saw was this masked stranger coming into her home in the middle of the night while she's asleep. I can't imagine a more terrifying scenario for anybody. So that video it's still shocking.
We were outside of Nancy Guthrie's home that morning. I actually had just arrived there.
Gabriella Becerra, you have been covering this story from the very beginning. First of all, what's happening down there right now?
Those videos came from this doorstep behind me. I want to point out that there is a lot of desert landscaping in the way between the videos and the street from where we are, and that's a big part of why we haven't seen any neighbor video that has detected anything. We see appears to be a man walk up onto her doorstep and start tampering with the camera. Then he appears to go back, get some foliage from her landscaping to try and cover up the camera as he tries to disable it. But those prove to be very powerful images, and I think to this day remain some of the most key evidence in this investigation, because that is the only information at this point that leads to who this person could be. There's just so many media outlets stretching down the street, so as soon as those new photos and videos were released, we immediately saw a lot of flurry from the media, because this, like you mentioned, is the first big development that we've seen in the week that we've been covering it. The FBI is bringing in agents from all over the country. Every day they tell us new agents are arriving to be able to help out with this case.
Gabriella, here we are. It is day 10. This is finally a first first big break in this case.
I have been talking to some of the neighbors out here, and they tell me they do have cameras, but because of the vegetation, because of this landscaping that's kind of all over, grown out, they weren't able to really see to the road. And so that's something they've been looking through, trying to keep a close eye. But like you said, it's just too difficult to see through.
What else speaks to you about him? Whether it's from the demeanor, the movement, you know, how he looks, how sophisticated perhaps he may seem, how familiar he may seem. What else speaks to you about the video and the images?
Yeah, I think there's a lot you can take from it. He doesn't look to be that nimble when he's walking up there.
And it was astounding to look at, and also very sobering. I mean, you know, this galvanized that, no, Nancy Guthrie did not wander off on her own.
For over a week now, we've been bringing you live team coverage as authorities search for Nancy Guthrie.
Tonight, law enforcement is going door to door once again in Annie Guthrie's neighborhood. We've also seen SWAT units leaving the sheriff's office today. So this has been a huge day in this investigation. Let's begin our coverage with Sean Rice with more on this shocking new video. Sean?
Mark and Kribe, good evening to you both. It really has been a day down here in Tucson with a lot of new evidence after several days recently where we really hadn't heard much from federal investigators, local investigators, but today that new surveillance video and pictures from Nancy Guthrie's front doorstep the morning she disappeared really does have this entire Tucson community on edge.
And Bram, I think a lot of us were surprised to learn that there is, in fact, video of this. So what changed in the last few days to deliver this breakthrough video today?
It indeed was a surprise. Now, it's not unusual for law enforcement to face legal hurdles in order to obtain privately held video for an investigation.
We had heard that they were trying to obtain this security camera video, and no one really knew if they would be able to do that because in the case of Nancy Guthrie, her doorbell camera wasn't hooked up to a monitoring service that would keep that video. And then all of a sudden, the FBI comes and says, we've got video.
What I was most fascinated by, and I think is still talked about to this day, is how the FBI was able to get those images, because Nancy Guthrie's Google Nest system did not have a subscription, meaning they couldn't store that video to be retrieved by even law enforcement in the days after the investigation. What the FBI has now released they had to do was talk to the head of Google and look into the cache of any video system, the data, if you will, and somehow they were able to work wonders on that system and retrieve that video in ways that I don't think has ever been done before. And so that may scare some people, or that may say this is a new way of fighting crime. No matter how you look at it, I think it was remarkable.
For the first time, the FBI, law enforcement, has an actionable piece of information that people can see and maybe identify the person in the mask. I'll concede, when I looked at that, I thought, wow, I think I would know who that was wearing that mask if I knew, right? And yet, that hasn't happened yet. I think it led to a lot of hope, certainly led to a lot of hope. But in the end, here we are, all these months later, and nothing.
You look at not just that person, but what that person was wearing.
Everyone in this newsroom was looking at what was he wearing.
Last night, the Pima County Sheriff's Department said deputies detained someone during a traffic stop south of Tucson.
So as soon as those new photos and videos were released, we immediately saw a lot of flurry from the media, because this, like you mentioned, is the first big development that we've seen in the week that we've been covering it.
You look at not just that person, but what that person was wearing. And so we started getting tips in the newsroom about the backpack. We started looking into the backpack, where the zippers were located.
And you can see the video shows a person wearing a mask and a backpack and gloves at the 84-year-old's front door.
In a way, this is kind of when community detective work really played a part here. because people recognized it.
Everyone in this newsroom was looking at what was he wearing, what's around his waist, what's his backpack, and everyone around here, that's another lead in the case.
It was actually quite interesting because the video is just in black and white, but yet forensic analysis was able to help investigators pinpoint exactly which kind of backpack this was. They narrowed it down to actually a brand that sold exclusively through Walmart.
And it was another glimmer of hope. Oh, this is gonna be it. We're gonna get video from inside Walmart of when he purchased that backpack, and then we're gonna find him. Nothing since then. Nothing.
We brought in some experts to get their take on this, what they thought, former FBI agent and also a former detective as well, to think that this could be the one who was responsible for Nancy Guthrie's abduction.
Authorities believe these images were taken the night she disappeared, showing a masked armed man wearing a backpack. Then hours later, last night, the Pima County Sheriff's Department said deputies detained someone during a traffic stop south of Tucson. The person was being questioned. Authorities then executed a search warrant at a home. Law enforcement also searched a car. Both of those searches taking place in Rio Rico, Arizona. That's roughly 60 miles south of Tucson, near the U.S.-Mexico border.
It was a hectic last 24 hours in this high-profile investigation, with the man being detained for a short time about an hour south of Tucson in Rio Rico, just outside of his own home. This morning, I spoke with Carlos Palenzuelos. This is the man who was detained in Rio Rico last night. He said he knew he was being followed as he was delivering food for DoorDash with his wife and 2 children in the car last night. He said he was placed into handcuffs and questioned inside the back of a Pima County Sheriff's Office vehicle. They inspected his car meticulously, and agents later executed a search warrant on his home just a couple blocks away in Rio Rico. Take a listen to the back and forth I had with him, learning more about why he said he was stopped and what these agents took from his home as they executed that search warrant. Take a listen. Before this entire situation happened, you didn't know there was a kidnapping. You had no idea.
I didn't know anything.
There's an 84-year-old woman missing up in the Tucson area. There had to maybe been something they told you as to how they got to you. How did they get to the Rio Rico?
An anonymous tip. That's what they said.
Oh, they thought you looked like that person?
That's what they told my mother-in-law. They showed her a video. Yeah, because they said that my eyes and my eyelashes looked the same.
Carlos, did they give you any search warrant paperwork?
Nah, until the end.
Not until the end?
Yeah, until they finished their investigation.
Did they say anything on it at all?
Just that they needed my phone.
They needed your phone?
That's it.
So do they have your phone right now?
Yeah.
Do you know what they're doing with it?
They told me that they're investigating it.
Okay.
I don't know how they're going to open it, though.
He said he did not recognize the person in the surveillance footage released by the FBI last night. Of course, this was a person in a ski mask that they may have thought was Carlos, but again, he remains committed to the fact that he is not the person in that video and he had nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie's disappearance.
Nancy Guthrie went missing February 1st, and since then the Pima County Sheriff's Office saying that they've received nearly 18,000 leads and 4,000 in the first 24 hours, and they've been searching the surrounding roads, Nancy's home, gas stations, and the investigation actually expanded an hour south of Tucson to Rio Rico, where they later detained a man. This was, I believe, yesterday, early in the morning, but then later released him after questioning him and searching his home and his car. That man's name is Carlos, and he tells us that he was just working his DoorDash job, and that is when law enforcement encountered him. And
the thing about the Rio Rico is there were 2 different times that a person of interest was stopped. Once in Rio Rico and then one time closer to Nancy's home in the Catalina foothills. And both times it felt like, oh, they're close. You know, we could have some closure to this case. And then hours later, it was like, nope, that's it. And we're back to square one with the investigation.
Investigators found what could be a huge piece of evidence, and it could really give them that break in the case that they need.
Investigators, they were able to find a pair of gloves. That's according to reports from our sister station KVOA down here in Tucson.
Because we thought that was going to be it. we're like, this is it. The case is going to be blown wide open with these gloves. And I think people were, they had their fingers crossed that was going to be the case.
We know that investigators, they have been roaming the streets of the Catalina foothills where Nancy Guthrie lives, and then about a mile and a half away from her home. That is where investigators, they believe they have found these gloves that could be tied to this investigation.
I think what people have to remember is that we're watching detective work and an investigation in real time. We're used to such rapid information, such rapid answers these days, but when you don't have the answers, every step in an investigation can seem like it's leading to the final answer. But what we're seeing here is them getting closer to it, but everybody just wants that answer.
Welcome to 12 News at 10, I'm Troy Hayden. Tonight, DNA evidence found on a glove near Nancy's house is being compared to a nationwide database of DNA samples. According to the FBI, the glove appears to be consistent with the gloves a masked man was wearing the night Nancy disappeared. 12 News journalist Gabriela Becerra live at the Pima County Sheriff's Department with new developments. Gabby?
Well, Troy, we've seen law enforcement conduct several searches of Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood, the Catalina foothills, over the past 2 weeks. And among the evidence they've collected, the FBI tells us they found 16 gloves. Now, most of those gloves belong to the searchers themselves that they had just discarded within the vicinity. But the FBI tells us they're paying close attention to at least one of the gloves that was found approximately 2 miles from Nancy's home.
And so I really caution everyone at the time not to jump into the fact that they found a glove. I think a lot of people assumed it was the suspect's glove when it turned out to be, at least one of them turned out to be, belonging to an investigator.
Most of the big major violent crime cases I've covered over the years, it's pretty straightforward. It's a spouse, it's a lover, it's a family member. It's pretty cut and dry what happened. This case wasn't like that. This was a complete mystery. So I think, investigators have to go on a number of different chases in search of leads. So they started, I think, at that inner circle, but then they had to gradually start going out and out and out.
And with a huge update for anyone who might lead to a break in this case.
It's a very selfless act. If you know something, surely you're going to speak up.
So we have to talk about what just happened in the last 30 minutes or so. Savannah Guthrie posted on her social media on Instagram another message. We've seen several messages from her and from the family pleading for people to come forward.
And with a huge update for anyone who might lead to a break in this case.
Hi there. I'm coming on to say it is day 24 since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed. And every hour and minute and second and every long night has been agony since then. But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home. For that reason, we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery.
When Savannah Guthrie came forward with $1 million, and we had heard that maybe she would offer a reward, maybe she wouldn't. Typically, and again, this is just from watching these police shows, you hear that you don't offer to put up that kind of money. And here she is.
There was a $1 million reward brought forward in addition to a $10,000 reward that was already existing, and then an additional $100,000 reward that came in from a Milwaukee-based attorney.
That was a huge jump forward in this case because I feel like it needed some new life. Needed to breathe some new life into it. We needed something. We were not getting anything from investigators. Savannah puts out this video and she talks about the $1 million reward. That was another moment where we thought, if you know something, surely you're going to speak up.
So please, if you hear this message, if you've been waiting and you haven't been sure, let this be your sign to please come forward.
To see her offering up what was likely $1 million of her own money to create this $1.2 million sum of money to help find her mother, it felt very desperate to me. It felt like a devoted daughter doing whatever she could, no matter what the number was, because she wanted to get her mom home.
Tonight, the search for Nancy Guthrie is just hours away from entering 25th day here. This morning, Savannah Guthrie announced her family is offering a reward of up to $1 million for the recovery of her mother. Savannah also announcing the family plans to donate $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
A lot of people would look at this case and think, what is so special about Nancy Guthrie? And I think that, you know, everybody's mother is special in and of itself to begin with. Her daughter is already in the spotlight. So obviously, when something happens, good or bad, to a family member, they are going to be in the spotlight as well.
We also know that we are not alone in our loss. We know there are millions of families that have suffered with this kind of uncertainty. And for that reason today, we also are donating $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for their work in helping families who are coping with loss and actively looking for those who are lost.
And you shouldn't be able to buy the quality of police work depending on how much you make. It should be the same for everyone. And so I think that what they did when they donated that huge sum of money to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children is say, we get it. We get that not everyone has the money that we have, and so let us help, because they know that there will be other Nancy Guthries down the road. Unfortunately, there will be many, many, many children who will disappear, sometimes forever, sometimes they'll be trafficked and come home, and sometimes they won't.
We are hoping that the attention that has been given to our mom and our family will extend to all the families like ours who are in need and need prayers and need support.
The fact that Savannah made that huge donation to that organization really speaks volumes. That it's very selfless, that, you know, everybody obviously is paying attention to her mother, but I think that her action is symbolic of, I'm not going to forget about, there are so many other people who are missing too. And it's a very selfless act. And I think it spoke volumes about, you know, I know that my mom isn't alone out there.
They announced those rewards with the assistance of law enforcement. Obviously, the family has a say, and if law enforcement said no, they might not do it. But I have to believe they did this with the assistance of law enforcement, perhaps the support. It's a lot of money, yes. Savannah Guthrie is fortunate enough to be a very wealthy woman. And my goodness, what price would you pay to have your mother back? This is a family going through hell, absolute hell. It just kept going and going and going, and it's not over. You know, yes, there are people out there who recognize economic differences and all the attention paid on this one missing woman, and yes, there are countless others missing. And under the circumstances, I take this as a good faith expression of solidarity with all those people, all those families. I'm sure some would argue it's PR. Maybe it is, but still, they're doing something. They're doing something, and you have to accept it in the spirit in which it's given.
Later in the show, she went out on the plaza to see everyone, telling her co-anchors, I'm excited to see them and give them all a hug. I've been really feeling the love so much. How special is that? What a homecoming.
When she returned to the Today Show, the entire country was behind her, especially us, because we are the handoff to the Today Show every single morning. So to hear from her, to hear how vulnerable she is, how she knows that this is the right move.
Good morning. Welcome to Today on this Monday morning. We are so glad you started your week with us, and it is good to be home.
Yes, it is good to have you back at home.
Well, here we go. Ready or not,
Yeah.
let's do the news.
Yes, so good to have you back. All right.
We couldn't believe to be in a situation where we're so lucky to have someone like that leading our mornings every single day.
12 News is really blessed with having a great staff. We were able to send down really our best people.
New details were coming in every single day.
We were really committed to covering this.
It's just media just everywhere. And all of a sudden there was all this commotion and the media was running towards Nancy's house. And I looked through kind of the bushes and I saw the Domino's Pizza logo. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I broke out my phone and, now it's just like, 50 media people just all on this poor Domino's guy. And they were like, what are you doing?
I actually met Nancy Guthrie back in 2015. I was working with the Today Show when they were doing the Super Bowl. Super Bowl was in town here in Arizona, and so Savannah and I were holed up in a trailer together, and Nancy and some of other Savannah's family members, they came up from Tucson to come see Savannah because, she's visiting from New York, and so we're all in this trailer, and I'm, busting to get my stuff done, but I couldn't help but listen in on all of them being so excited to be together. And one of my biggest takeaways from that after meeting Nancy and listening to, her talk with Savannah was just how much Nancy loved and was so proud of Savannah.
In a lot of ways, it feels like today with Nancy still missing, it feels just like that first day of the investigation. While there have been some advances that the public has been made aware of, as far as having DNA to be able to test, knowing what kind of backpack we're looking for now, there's still so much we don't know.
But we also spoke with some people in this neighborhood who are just completely on edge about this whole situation.
The first week it broke, I talked to my mom every day. It kind of just made me think, not to make it all about myself, but it was kind of like, I love my mom and I want to kind of make sure that she's all right, obviously. So just it kind of brought the family closer together a little bit in terms of, kind of appreciate what you have while it's there.
I'll just say overall, 12 News is really blessed with having a great staff of reporters and anchors who know what they're doing, who know the questions to ask. They're into their jobs, they have a passion for what they do. And so we were able to send down really our best people.
It was really an honor to be a part of the team and just to try to go out there and make a difference, even though the days were long, even though sometimes the days did not give you any answers or there wasn't too much to report on. You're like, we are here 24/7. We will be there to report the news whenever something does happen. Every time you see Savannah pop up on the Today Show, you're just like, wow, I hope Savannah and her family get answers. I hope there is some break in the case. I hope some good can come out of this.
We had, a morning crew, a dayside crew, and a nightside crew. There was somebody basically in front of Nancy's house nearly 24 hours a day for the first 3 weeks that we were covering this. And that was because new details were coming in every single day, sometimes several times a day. It was new information being shared. We kind of really went hard on this for the first 3 weeks. We just had to have so many different people there. So everyone touched this case in some way or another. And so everyone kind of had to know everything that was going on as well. And so the anchors knew from the desk, we knew from out in the field, and we kind of all brought that information together.
As a station, we were really committed to covering this. And we all wanted to see Nancy come home.
When there started to be a growing memorial outside of her home, a lot of yellow roses, pictures, handwritten notes, it started to really hit home that this is not just a storyline. This is a person who is missing, who was most likely removed from her home in the middle of the night as she was asleep and didn't deserve this.
In our business, we run on deadlines, and so we like to get answers in a timely manner so that we can put our story together. This is an incomplete story, and it has been going on for months. When it first happened, I was convinced we would have answers within 24, 48 hours. Within the week, I just kept putting out, like, surely we're gonna know. We're gonna know. Here we are this far out, and we still do not have answers.
And who would have thought that Nancy Guthrie is still missing? And sadly, she's probably gone. Those first 48 hours are the most crucial for any investigation. And the fact that this dragged on for days, into weeks, into months, it's just so sad. And you almost think, will she ever be found? You hope, but months later, they still have no clue as to where she is.
You can cover this story with just the facts, but I truly believe that what helped differentiate us is that our reporters down there truly felt the weight of this story, not only for that family that was suffering in silence, but for the people that love Savannah Guthrie because she's an Arizonan.
It is heartbreaking not to have any answers. You know, we are constantly trying to find answers as our law enforcement. They're trying to figure out who did this, and it's so difficult, I think, not only for the family to not have answers, but for us, because you know, we see the impact it had on that whole community.
Savannah Guthrie has returned to work. God bless her. Don't know how she gets through every day, but you know, God bless her. I think she probably needs that. But as humans, we kind of get on with our lives in some respect, although there will always be a hole there. What's important is, this is when you really see what a TV station, a journalism operation is all about. This is when you really have to rise to the occasion. When you know you're going to be spending a lot of time on this, a lot of time. It affects you, it affects your family. But this is what we do. This is what we're here for, to bring you the news. And so everybody gets that. And we do what you have to do. We find a way. And it's, I don't want to make it sound like we're celebrating this terrible event. We're not. Everybody, I think, is truly grieving this in many ways. But we're there for you to let you know what the news is, what happened, and why, as best as we can tell it. And that takes a large team working together and really committing to getting it right. And that's what we do at 12. We've done that over and over.
We still need to find Nancy, but I think we've been so dedicated to this story, and we have to continue that dedication until we find out where she is and we bring her home.